All right, a moment that, none of us have really been looking forward to, but joining us in studio is the Interim Police Chief, at least for one more day, Michael Sullivan. Chief, welcome in.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mike.
Before we get to the retirement part of not retirement, but leaving this agency part of this, I want to talk about your time at Phoenix PD because we've never really talked about this. I'm interested to get your perspective on the backside of this investigation from the DOJ and walking in, knowing what you were walking into with your experience. What was it like navigating that DOJ investigation while it was going on and then the fallout after?
I think when I walked into the agency, just understanding what data that we had available to be able to tell our story going forward, and then devising a plan that was going to, regardless what happened with DOJ, we were going to be able to progress, get better, because that's the DOJ, we can't control them. All we can control is what we do as the Phoenix Police Department. And that was my goal, to build a plan and build a department that is truly, and you heard it from the first interviews I gave, that was going to be self-assessing, self-correcting. We identify problems before they happen and address them head on. And I think that's what we've done during my tenure.
In the history of Phoenix PD before you came here, I would say they have always been a self-assessing, self-correcting agency. Did you find that when you came here that they wanted to be the best they could, that they weren't hiding from issues or problems when they came up?
This is an elite agency, and they've always been very, very good. And what I've told people, and this isn't just the Phoenix Police Department, we're very good at making sure that we put good policies and procedures in place, but we don't do a good job putting systems in place that identify issues before they become a big problem. And that was one of my emphases while I was here, making sure we did that.
So let's go down that road for a moment, if you don't mind. What are some of the things that you've done as the chief of police here that you consider an accomplishment and a betterment to the agency? What are some of those things you're satisfied with?
We've expanded the less lethal tools our officers have on the street to be able to do their job. We brought in national best practice training in our ICAT training that talks about how we deal with people that are armed with things other than firearms. The new use of force policy certainly, I think, is going to keep officers safer. I think it keeps community members safer and is going to make for even a more disciplined department in the long run.
There are those, I've had conversations privately since you announced that you were leaving, and people have said that if it had not been for some of the changes you specifically made and some of the things you brought to the city, we would be much closer to signing a consent decree with the DOJ, which would have been, in my opinion, disastrous. Not your words, my words, but they're giving you a lot of credit for that not happening. Was that part of the plan, was to avoid that consent decree and to have the agency make corrections on its own without oversight from the federal government?
I think the plan was to make sure that we educated the city leadership on what a consent decree meant to the city. I think that's why the Road to Reform report that we put out back in February was so critically important to tell our story. No other city had done something like that. And I think that really surprised the DOJ and made them have to reassess their report at that time.
When you look at the next chief, whoever the next chief is going to be, what are you leaving for them? What do you believe is something that next chief is going to have to pick up and run with first, day one on the job for them? What would you say to that new chief?
Well, first off, don't forget what our mission is. Our mission is to prevent and control crime, provide public safety for this community, and justice to victims and justice to community. And if you continue to like that North Star, that's number one. But you have to engage with the community, which I spent all amount of time during my time here engaging with the community and with the officers that do this incredibly difficult work every day.
That story, I don't want to go down a negative road while you're here, but the story about overtime for me highlighted the fact that you're still very, very short staffed. And I've been saying for years that the Phoenix Police Department is victims of their own success. Crime has gone down. We live in a safe city. People have a very positive attitude toward the Phoenix Police Department, but you are still dramatically understaffed. When you look at the size in land mass and population, we're much bigger than the city of Philadelphia, yet you have less than half the officers that city's police department has. How does that get addressed, and how do we fix that issue as an officer safety and a public safety issue?
Obviously we have to use overtime to be able to backfill that. So when you call 911, we show up. But I can tell you one of the things that we've been focused on is our recruiting efforts, because that's the one thing that we can do. And I can tell you yesterday, I swore in 4 laterals, the people that came from other departments because they know what an elite department we are at the City of Phoenix wanted to join us. And we have the largest class that just started this month in over 5 years. Over 40 officers. So that is an encouraging sign. Then the next class looks like it's going to be similar in size. And if we keep on that trajectory, we're going to be in a good place in the city of Phoenix.
I don't think the general public understands, only I understand because my brother's a cop, is the process just to get hired is an arduous process because you go through a background check and a mental health evaluation and a physical evaluation, and the background check is extensive. So it's not an easy thing to become an officer. So I think that tends to get a lot of people, it separates the ones that really want it, doesn't it?
It certainly does, and it's a limited pool, and we've got a bunch of great departments in this valley, and we're all fighting for that same population.
I had a conversation. The Mesa chief is retiring. Chief Cost is retiring, and we had a conversation about cooperation. That the valley seems to run together, and without the signs changing, you don't really realize when you leave one city to go to the other. The coordination and the cooperation with other agencies, he said, is second to none anywhere in the country. You've been around the country quite a bit. Do you agree?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with Chief Cost on that one. Our partners in the East and West Valley, we meet on a regular basis. We have each other's phone numbers. If something comes up, we don't hesitate to communicate one-on-one, chief to chief.
When, and I know I'm bouncing around on topics, I apologize, but when you look at this avoidance so far of this consent decree with the DOJ, do you believe that the Phoenix Police Department is on the right road now and that it is going to be able to avoid any of this oversight federally? But what do you think will happen next? What needs to continue to happen for Phoenix to stay on the right road?
I was at a policy session this Tuesday, and we outlined everything that we've accomplished here just in the last few months. And we'll continue to do that. We laid out what that road forward looks like as far as continuing the efforts to make sure that if for some reason somebody comes in and tries to put oversight on the department, that we can defend ourselves and really prove what kind of department we are.
The website I thought was a great idea that explains the Phoenix side of the equation, that when the DOJ report came out that was very, very critical, that there was a bit of a rebuttal that Phoenicians can go and look at and see that we've actually addressed issues when they've come up, or I should say your agency has addressed them when they've come up, that you didn't wait for someone else, that you recognize problems, you address problems. And I think that put a lot of people's minds at ease that this is not an agency that ignores problems.
Absolutely.
When you should that continue? Is there the methodology of one of the changes you made that I really like is as quickly as you can, you turn around body cam videos and other things when there's critical incidents that happen, so the public can see very quickly what happened and make their own decision.
That process that we do, I think, is really important and transparent and puts it out there so the public can see an unfiltered view of what actually occurred during these critical incidents.
All right, Chief, if you don't mind, next segment, I'd like to talk about the next phase, why you're leaving and where you're going. I'd like to talk about that in a few minutes, if you don't mind.
Terrific.
All right, we got a couple of more minutes here with the Chief. We'll get to it in just a couple of seconds. All right, in studio with me is the interim police chief in the city of Phoenix, at least until the end of today, Michael Sullivan. And many people were expecting an announcement of a permanent police chief. You were one of the 4 finalists, and in many people's minds, the front runner to continue as the Phoenix police chief. And then very late in the process, surprised me and a lot of other people, you withdrew your name from consideration. Can you share with us, are you willing to share with us a little bit of what went into that decision so late to say, I'm going to pull my name?
It was a lot of contemplation, a lot of prayer. I'm a man of faith and thinking truly what is best for the city and best for this department, because I've been here 3 years almost, and I've learned to love this city. There's a community here like no other. And I just really think the next stage, we've gone through a lot of change over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And I think it's the perfect time for me to say that I accomplished what I came here to accomplish. I'm leaving this place in a much better place than I found it. And this department is going to go forward and be better than it ever has been before.
What then, I'm going to ask you to speculate, what then should the city be, because they started the process all over again. They're going to now do a nationwide search. They knew what they were looking for when they found you because of what the DOJ investigation was, and you were the person that fit because of your expertise in the area. What should the city, where they are right now, the agency, what should they be looking for in their next chief?
I think they need to be looking for somebody that has the will continue to have the courage to make tough decisions and continue the efforts that have gone on, but is going to have the energy to be able to implement. When you have these small windows of leadership, which when you're a chief of police someplace, you don't know how big your window is, but I can tell you it's never super large. You have to make the biggest impact you can in the shortest amount of time. And that requires somebody who's going to be dedicated and spend every waking hour like I have over the last 3 years to make this department and this city safe.
While I have you this time to reflect on this, is it difficult for you to make the transition? Because I know it's got to be difficult to be a cop for as long as you've been a cop. And then also there's got to be a political side because you have to deal with city management and budgets. And so you have people you answer to on that side. At the same time, officer safety and making sure your officers come first. Being in two boats, is that a difficult thing to do, to have your feet in two boats?
Absolutely. I think you described it very accurately there, Mike. I mean, being able to navigate everything you have to navigate, especially as a major city police chief, is extremely difficult, and it takes all your energy. I am looking forward to taking a little time to decompress over the next couple months.
Any inclination or idea what you're going to do next?
None.
Really?
Which is a little bit scary, Mike, because, I've done this and this will be the third department I've been in. I've always had a plan. I don't really have a plan right now, and I think that's okay.
What are you going to miss? What is it inside the agency, but what are you going to miss most when you get done today?
I'm going to miss the people that I worked with every day that were, willing to do this incredibly tough job. And then, the community events, the support that I had, the people that were served on our police chief advisory boards that reach out to me on a consistent basis. And I'm really going to miss that. That is, you get to do incredible things as the chief of the city of Phoenix. You get to support people like Tyler Moldovan, and
what an incredible young man. What a family.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I've had the opportunity during my time here to spend time with him and see him continue to heal. Just a miracle.
All right. So 2 messages I'm going to ask you if you want to send. What do you say to the citizens of Phoenix? What do you say to the people, the Phoenicians that are listening right now about your time here and what you have? What do you say to them?
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the privilege. I never took it for granted of being the chief of this police department and being able to work to provide public safety.
How about the men and women of the Phoenix Police Department?
They are the most dedicated police officers that I've ever seen. They do an incredibly difficult job. I'm going to miss you dearly, and just keep up the hard work that you do every single day. And we're, with these increased class sizes, we're going to bring you help so we can continue to provide the service that this city deserves.
Last question then is anything left undone? Is there anything you wish you could have accomplished in your time here that didn't get done? You talked about the things you're happy about. Are there things you wish could have been done by the time you left?
Yeah, certainly. We're getting ready to move into new police headquarters. I would have liked to have seen that get done before I left. And we're working on a new records management system, which will really allow us to move into the modern age with our police data. I know that sounds a little bit boring, but those are huge lifts. The city has been working on years. We're close to the finish line on those, and I know the department's going to find the finish line. Unless
anybody, even me as a civilian that's seen some of that they don't understand how antiquated some of that stuff was. It was difficult for cops to do their jobs in a modern age using something as some of the equipment as old as it is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I pushed the vision. Hopefully here in just a few months, cops will be taking reports on their phone. and why shouldn't they be in this era?
It's funny because when we think about old things, we see once in a while you'll see the old patrol cars driving around that look at, oh my gosh, that thing looks like an antique, but it's not just, that is part of the equipment. But imagine if you were still if your officers were still using vehicles that were built at the beginning of the century, we would be looking at this like, what in the world? This is Phoenix. But the systems that they're using to make their job easier are literally that old, or were at least in some cases, right?
They were definitely antiquated.
So, all right, listen, Chief, I appreciate the time. I know you're making your rounds today, and I appreciate you coming in here first. It has been great to get to know you. I wish you nothing but the best, and thanks for your time here. And hopefully the legacy is going to be a good one in the long run for you, because I think you played a big role in making sure the city saved a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of headache with avoiding a consent decree, and you deserve a lot of credit for that.
Well, Mike, thank you for always being a friend of the Phoenix Police Department. We greatly appreciate it.
All right, that is Chief Michael Sullivan spending a few moments with us.
Thanks for watching the Mike Broomhead Show. Catch up on Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast, and click the button in the middle to subscribe.